want to ask you to please share in the chat 3 top emotions you felt this week. We will look at them at the end of the sermon. Have you ever noticed how we've never really been taught how to deal with emotions? As I ask you to share your top 3 emotions, it might even be hard for you to recognize what you felt, and even harder to understand why you felt the way you did. But take a moment to reflect and try to express your top 3 emotions this week. Not only are we not taught how to deal with emotions, many of us were taught that emotions are something bad. You may have heard things like, stop crying, girls are too dramatic, boys don't cry. You were praised for hiding your pain. You were told emotions are a sign of weakness, and that to follow Jesus, you should rely only on reason, duty, and put your emotions aside. Our culture swings between 2 extremes: ignore emotions and push through it, or be ruled by them and let them lead everything in your life. But I wanted to challenge you today. Following Jesus with your emotions doesn't mean ignoring them or be ruled by them. It means to bring them into His presence. You don't need to fake it. You don't need to shut down. God can handle your feelings, your emotions. In John 11:35, it says that Jesus wept. I love this verse. It gives such a clear picture of Jesus' humanity. He wept because his friend Lazarus died. Mary and Martha were grieving, but what is powerful is that Jesus knew he would raise Lazarus, and yet he still wept. Why? Because Jesus saw the pain that caused. He knew the suffering. He entered into with compassion. Jesus showed that emotions matter because grief is real, even when hope is certain. Let's pause here for a brief moment and let's hear that again. Grief is real even when hope is certain. Think about that. Even when you are a believer, even when you are sure of eternity, even when you know Jesus will return, grief is still real. It's a Christian thing to cry, to grieve. Jesus did. Jesus did not dismiss pain with theology. He was deeply moved and he expressed it. Jesus was fully human and fully God. He felt as we do. He suffered as we do. He hurt as we do. When he saw others hurting, Jesus was not emotionally detached. He did not hide his tears. He allowed the tears to come. He allowed others to see it. He did not pretend to be okay when he was not okay. Being godly doesn't mean being emotionally numb. If Jesus wasn't ashamed of emotions, why are we? You can follow Jesus in your emotions, not just when you're praying, reading, or doing ministry. If Jesus, the Son of God, could cry in public, you don't have to pretend to be okay all the time. I'm going to be honest with you. Showing my emotions was never a problem for me. I always been the kind of person that whatever I am feeling inside shows clearly on the outside. If I'm mad, you can tell. If I don't like something, I'll be polite, but I won't pretend I like it. If I feel like crying, I just cry, even the ugly kind, in front of people. My struggle wasn't that I could not show my emotions. It was not being able to hide my emotions. But that started to change when I stepped into a more professional space. I began to feel the pressure to manage how I came across. That pressure got even heavier when I became a Christian, and then even more when I became a pastor. Let's be real. Ministry is still mostly a man's world. And one of the criticisms you hear about women leadership is that they're too emotional to be a pastor. or to be a leader, period. So I started doing what a lot of people do. I try to hide my emotions. But honestly, I am not great at that. Sometimes I manage to keep it, but most of the time I can't. I'm not the crying type, but I process things by talking. If I don't talk it out, I can't find peace. And because I struggle to hold it all in, I started to believe something was wrong with me. I thought, maybe I'm not strong enough. Maybe I'm not mature enough. Maybe I'm not a good leader. I need to figure it out how to feel less. At one point, I even looked up the word stoic. If you don't know what that means, just picture the opposite of me. Just kidding, kind of. But here's what I've learned since then. Emotional maturity isn't about hiding your emotions. It's about knowing what to do with them. It's about learning to bring your full self to Jesus, including the parts you've been told to keep it quiet. That's when things began to change for me. I stopped reading only the teachings in the Bible and started paying attention to the prayers. And what I found out in the Psalms completely surprised me. Look at this. Psalms 13:1 says, "How long, Lord? Will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me?" David is expressing spiritual depression. He feels abandoned by God and he names it out loud. Psalms 42:11. "Why are you in despair, O my soul? And why have you become disturbed within me?" This is spiritual self-talk. The writer is checking in with his soul, not pretending everything is okay. Psalms 88:18. This one ends in darkness, no resolution. It says that darkness is my closest friend. Even this gets included in scripture. These weren't polished prayers. They weren't quiet or put together. They were raw. They were emotional. They were painfully honest. The people who wrote the Psalms didn't hide their sadness, anxiety, anger, or grief. They prayed. And that's when I started to realize something. Maybe spiritual maturity isn't about feeling less, it's about bringing more of what we feel to God. Lament is not complaining without purpose. Lament is faith refusing to give up, is still bringing the pain to God, not hiding it. God is not intimidated by your sadness, anger, or fear. He would rather have your raw honesty than your fake praises. He knows you. He knows exactly what is going on with you, and he can handle it, even if you're mad at him. Have you ever brought your full, unfiltered feelings into prayer? If not, you are missing a way to know him more deeply. Now, let's talk about something that we often separate, but we shouldn't. Emotional maturity is spiritual maturity. You can't grow in your relationship with God if you ignore or mismanage your emotions. We sometimes act like our emotions belong in therapy and our spiritual life belongs in church. But God didn't create you in pieces. Your emotions are part of your spiritual life. I remember training new employees when I became a bank manager. We were taught to leave home at home, and it made sense. But I've learned that the home me and the work me are still me. Of course, we shouldn't let emotions control us, but we also shouldn't try to live two separate lives. God wants to help you deal with your emotions, not hide them. So, in one hand, we are not to be so hard on ourselves to try to be two different people to fit the expectations of others to be numb, but also learn to deal with our emotions. Why is it so important to deal with our emotions? They don't disappear. They show up in other places. One unprocessed anger turns into sarcasm, irritability, or passive aggression. Push down sadness can numb your joy and leave you stuck. Fear or anxiety might keep you from trusting God or stepping out in faith. Shame makes you isolated and pretend you're fine even when you're not. If you ignore what's going on inside, you end up living a double life. Spiritual on the outside, emotionally broken on the inside. Jesus wants to heal all of you, not just the parts that look holy. Here are a few examples of how emotional maturity can block spiritual growth. You can admit weakness. You won't ask for help from God or others. Can't name your pain. You won't heal. You will hide it. Avoid emotions. You will avoid deep prayer. Real connection with God requires honesty. You might look faithful on the outside, but feel far from God on the inside. That's not what God wants from you. Jesus modeled a better way. Jesus felt grief, joy, compassion, anger, frustration, love. He expressed all of them, but never let them control him. He took his emotions to the Father in prayer. Think of the Garden of Gethsemane in John 11. Jesus didn't avoid emotions, he processed it in the presence of the Father. That's what emotional maturity looks like. Growing your emotions is part of growing in your faith. You don't need to be ruled by your emotions, but you also don't need to bury them. You need to bring them to Jesus. Spiritual maturity includes emotional maturity. It's not about feeling less, it's about learning how to walk with Jesus through what you feel. Let's walk through 5 steps that help you follow Jesus with your emotions. 1. Name what you feel. You can't bring to God what you won't name. Most people use just few basic words: mad, sad, fine. But emotional maturity starts with clarity. Instead of saying, I'm just tired, maybe you're actually frustrated or overwhelmed. Are you feeling rejected, anxious, disappointed, insecure? Naming helps you understand the root of what's going on. For an example, Jesus in the Gethsemane said, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. He didn't say, I'm fine. He told the truth. Name your emotions isn't weakness, it's the first step to healing. Number 2, ask why you feel the way you do. Once you name the emotion, pause and ask, why am I feeling this? This step is uncomfortable, but it's where real growth begins. Let me share a personal experience with you. I'm going to be completely vulnerable with you right now because I wanted to model a safe space, what it should look like. There was a season in my life, in my marriage. We had been married for at least 6 years. I was homeschooling the kids, and some days were great. We were laughing, we played, we learned together. I was in a great mood, but something strange kept happening when it was about time for my husband to get home. My whole mood would shift. He would walk in through the door, and I would suddenly feel negative. I would greet him with an attitude and start listing everything I have done that day, almost like I needed him to know how hard I worked. One day, the Holy Spirit gently convicted me to notice my attitude and that this wasn't just about my mood. Something deeper was going on. So I began to reflect. And as I asked why, I discovered a few things. I didn't know how to receive love because of past wounds. I felt like I had to earn it, so I acted like I needed to prove my worth. Pride also got in the way. I didn't want to show I was doing fine. Being cranky, negative, felt more familiar and safe. My identity was tied to performance. I needed to feel useful, to feel valuable. That moment helped me see I am not just reacting, I'm carrying things I have surrendered to Jesus. Asking why is hard, but it would lead you to healing. Emotional maturity doesn't come from ignoring your behavior, it comes from letting God reveal what is behind it. Number 3, pray your emotions. Once you name what you feel, you know why, bring it into prayer. Use your own words or pray through Psalms that match what you're feeling. For an example, if you're angry, Psalms 109. Depressed, Psalms 88. Betrayed, Psalms 55. Hopeless, Psalm 13. The Psalms teach us that God invites our honesty, not our performance. Number 4, pause before reacting. Emotional maturity isn't about suppressing feelings, it's about slowing down so you don't react based on them. Be quick to listen, is slow to speak, and is slow to become angry. Before you send that text, post that reply, say those words, pause and ask, what am I really feeling right now? And what does following Jesus look like in this moment? Mature people still feel. They just choose not to be led by emotions of the moment. And number 5, share with safe people. You're not meant to process everything alone. Even Jesus invited close friends to pray with him in Gethsemane. Find safe people who listens without judging, but also that remind you of the truth. Not just people that will agree with you, and people that help you grow. Don't wait for a crisis to build emotional support. Build it now. Healing happens in community. Hiding only increases your burden. Let's be honest. This is a lot to take in. Maybe as you were listening, some emotion is starting to rise to the surface. Maybe you've been ignoring something that needs attention. Maybe you've been reacting without really asking why. Maybe you've believed the lie that being emotional makes you weak or less spiritual. But here's what I want you to hear today. Jesus wants the real you, the emotional you, the honest you. You don't have to clean up before coming to him. You just have to come. Take a moment right now and ask, God, what emotion have I been avoiding and why? You don't have to fix it this moment, but you can bring it to the one who understands emotions better than anyone else. Now we're going to take this deeper together. We're going to transition to our time of discussion. This is where we get to hear from each other, ask questions, share our takeaways, and process what God might be stirring up in us. So stay with us, jump into the chat. Let's grow together in emotional and spiritual maturity. If you're watching this later, feel free to be part of the conversation through the comments. Next week, we will be dealing with the topic of joy and transformation. I really hope to be with you next week. Before we get to the panelists, I want to share with you a second quiz. This second quiz is going to help us start our conversation today. So please answer these questions now. After the sermon, these are a little different questions, and they're going to help us start talking. So which step stood out the most for you? That's the first one. And can you guys see the poll? Only 4 easy questions. I don't know if you guys can see, but I'm not seeing anybody answer. You guys don't want to answer? Yes, now I see somebody start answering. Thank you. And I saw that Ashley answered here in the comments. Welcome, Ashley. It's my friend Ashley here in Charlotte. And so the first question is, which step stood out to you the most? Which emotion do you struggle to express? Do you believe emotional maturity is part of spiritual maturity? What is one next step you want to take this week? And as they are answering, my panelists can turn on your cameras. Hello. And let me see. I believe all of the participants already answered. And I want to quickly share the answers here. And that's how we will start talking. So, my friends, first of all, I'm ask my panel, which step, no, actually, what from the conversation stood up to you the most from the sermon today?
For me, the one that stood the most as like the one that I can relate to the most is like prayer emotions. Because I know for me in my own personal life, in my walk with God, I always like tell myself and others that it doesn't make sense to hide your emotions from God because He already knows what you're feeling. So it's something where it's always better to bring like the rawest form of your emotion, where it's like you just tell God, it's like, hey, this is just how I feel about this, whether if it's rational or irrational. So, so yeah,
Yeah.
that's what stood out to me the most, I would say.
What else? Any others?
Yeah, definitely the same. I think that I haven't actually shared these with God at all in the past. So it is very hard. And now I can even see humbleness on that. Because then when you say how you feel, God, I mean, you're accepting who you are as well.
Manu, I wanted to ask you a question because I think from everybody else here, you are the one that has been in the US for the last amount of time.
Mhm.
Do you think that is even harder for someone from Mexico, from South America, Trans America?
Mhm. Yeah, definitely it is because we grow up with these things that you were sharing that men don't cry, men cannot share these type of things. So even though I live back in Mexico in a big city, so we still have that where men cannot share emotions, where men can feel sad or feel probably angered. Yeah, that's the most common, but fear it is tough, and that's the one that I actually been dealing the most with share my fears.
Fears and anxiety. Yes, yes. Leah, I keep wanting to call you Leia just because that's how you spelled that in Portuguese, okay? Leah.
Um, I actually think it's interesting that you asked me to be a panelist on this one because this is one of the things I struggle with the most is definitely learning how to deal with my emotions the right way. And it's a work in progress, but it's gotten better over the past couple of years. One of the things I struggle to really share my emotions is definitely when I'm angry. Everything comes out as anger, but most of it is something happened and I'm a little bit overwhelmed and it's just I'm angry about it. So trying to figure out how to show that I'm more overwhelmed and not angry has definitely been difficult, or any of the other emotions, sadness, it all comes out as anger. Not sure why, but
Yeah, I've been reading a lot and they say that anger is actually fear. What do you think about that, Leah, as you
I
struggle
think
with
that
that?
is true.
Yeah.
Honestly, I really do. Um, because I mean, I just graduated high school, so I'm scared to like get out there and do and everything. So it all kind of just jumbles up, and then I'm like, ah,
Yeah. So it's like I just graduated from high school. Now I'm going to the big world. There is that transition, and you
yeah,
are anxious and you're afraid, but you don't know how to to deal with that emotion, so it comes out in anger.
Yep.
Yep. So in the questionnaire here, majority of the people, the one that which stood out to you the most, which step stood out to you the most people said pray your emotions. And then everything else was kind of like just one vote for each one. Why do you think the hardest step is to pray your emotions?
I say praying your emotions. It requires vulnerability. I know in my own personal life there was a time where I like I'll quickly try to say a long story really, really, really short. So there was a time where, like, I moved to North Carolina from New Jersey. I've been working here for since, like, I would want to say like 2018 or 2017. And I left my family, came down here working at the same job, absolutely loved the place and everything. And then they announced that they were going to start doing layoffs. So the thing is, they did it in two different waves. The first wave was like, hey, you're about to get the boot in like 2 months, and then the next wave you're going to get it in 6 months. So I was a part of the wave that was 6 months. So I was like, hey, you can prepare for the storm and stuff like that. So then, I was like putting my little money away and doing whatnot. And then I remember my siblings were like, abandon ship, don't wait to get your severance, just leave, just leave. And I was like, no, I was like, God got me, I'm gonna stay, I'm gonna get my severance money, and then I'm gonna leave, you know. And then when it came time closer to closer, to like getting the boot, it's something where that's okay. I was like maybe 2 months before I started applying, and I just wasn't hearing from anyone. There'll be positions that I'm overqualified for, and I'm just like, why aren't you biting? Like, why aren't you know? And then it got to a point where I had to have this honest conversation with God, where I was like, God, um, I don't know how to express this to you, because I'm very open with everything that goes on in my life with my church family, so they know about all of this every step of the way and whatnot. And I remember praying to God one evening where I was like, hey God, I have faith based off of everything you brought me through that you're going to take care of me. But I'm like, even though I have this faith, I'm still uncertain. And it's like I live here alone. I don't have any family members that are around the corner, you know? And that's where it kind of brings the whole like I know in Mark 9:24, like the one of the father kind of says, I do believe, but help me overcome my unbelief. That is something that really like resonated in that period in my life, where it's like, hey, God, I know you're gonna make a way, but I don't see it. And when I was crying, bawling my eyes out, just saying, God, like, I know you're going to do something, but I don't see it. I'm applying and no one's responding. That was when, as soon as I had that prayer, I kid you not, within less than 24 hours, all the jobs started responding back. And then I was like, okay, God, now I got to change my prayers. Now I got to be like, help me discern which one's the right one, kind of, and it's something where, regardless of whatever emotions you're going through, my suggestion is always bring it to Him in prayer, because it's like, it's something where He's our Heavenly Father, and bringing it to Him actually helps us process our emotions, you know?
I think the difficult part is that a lot of times we don't understand our emotions. And we don't even know what to bring into God, because you don't even, like, you're overwhelmed, you're angry, you're anxious.
Mhm.
Uh, and at least for me, and I don't know if it's because my Christianity, everything is very new to me, even though I'm a Christian now for 20 years.
Mhm.
I still have so much to learn, that my difficulty sometimes is like, do I understand why I'm feeling this?
Mhm. And oh, I was gonna say,
Go ahead.
sometimes you can't put it into words. And Leah, when you said like you graduated school, or high school, it's something where like my advice is just remember God's always with you, because it's something where my grandma, she always says, I've never seen the righteous forsaken nor their seed begging for bread. And it's something where that has always been truthful in my life, and it's something where I understand. Like I am 32 years of age, so I understand how crazy the world can get, and how it's like you have all these questions, like what's the next step, what's the right move. It's something where I'll say this: just trust that God will close the doors you can't, like, that you're not supposed to go through. Just have faith that He's going to close those doors for you. Like, you won't even be able to access those doors, you know? And then just more of just saying, like, you just go through everything praying. And it's like, it's crazy because it's something where it's like, if you knew for certain every step of the way, it wouldn't require faith. But then that's where God grows our faith, is through that uncertainty where where He just holds our hand and we just take one step at a time.
The God shutting the doors, that is an interesting concept because that's what I started doing. At the beginning, like when I first became a Christian, I was like, God, give me a sign. Am I supposed to do this? Am I supposed to do that? And one day I did this. Never do this. I don't recommend. I was like, God, if I'm supposed to do this, make that happen. And then it didn't happen. I was like, well, just in case, or what if? Let me pray again. Now the opposite. Father, if I'm this, make this something else happen. And neither one happened. So that affected my faith because I was like, God is not listening because he didn't give me neither one or the other, the answer to one or the other. Are you guys hearing me well? Because I keep getting
Hmm.
messages here. Okay. So that could severely affected my faith. So I was like, I'm never asking for a sign again because I don't want to do that. But one thing that I gave God permission, I fully, and I do this to this day, and I think that's the best thing that has worked. God, I give you full permission to close the doors. If this is not supposed to be for me, if I'm not supposed to do this, and help me accept the doors closed.
And,
Because sometimes we think that's what I need to do, what I wanted to do.
And I want to add something. So all those other positions that I was applying for, it's something where if those doors were open, if they would have given me a chance, I'd have quickly accepted it out of fear. But
Mhm.
because God allowed those doors to be closed, He allowed where the one job, like I kid you not, the one job that I applied for, I remember looking at it, I was like, God, it would be so amazing to get this. And then when I had the interview and then I was able to get it, it was something where it's like this, like it's something where, so it's like this. There are blessings in no's in life.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I think we already talked about this other one a little bit, but which emotions do you struggle to express the most? And most people answered that it was fear. And in my mind, and then I want your opinion. Why do you think we have the hardest time to express fear? Probably because fear doesn't come out showing us in fear, but it shows us in something else. Kind of like I'm afraid and I show in anger. I'm afraid and I shut down. I'm afraid and it shows in anxiety. What are your thoughts?
Well, at least for me, sometimes fear is equal to weakness as well.
Mm.
So if you're afraid of something, so that means that you are not brave enough. So that's something negative that I don't want to show to anyone, and I always want to keep myself like, oh no, I'm brave enough. I don't fear of that. It's gonna be fine. And then you're blocking yourself. So then you start like it's hard to express and accept that actually you are afraid of something. And I think here is a first step before to express your fears is to accept that we are afraid of something. And when we accept that and we let God to get into our hearts, I think it's going to be easier for us to actually start processing that with Him through prayer. And definitely, I'm completely sure that anything that we are going through right now, God is gonna I use He's gonna use that for a testimony in the future for others.
I would say, out of all the emotions that you said, anger can be rationalized. You could say like this made me angry for this reason. Sadness, it can be rationalized. Where God forbid this person passed away or this happened, it can be rationalized. Fear is the only one that is hard to rationalize because a lot of it is like it's like I agree with everything what you said, but also to add to it, it's something where it's also just the unknown, because because it's like just the unknown in itself is scary. You don't know what's going to happen. So I say like it's easiest for fear to be the most difficult emotion to process because it's hard to rationalize it because it doesn't make sense. Like for me, it's like I love the ocean, but I can't swim. So it's like anytime when I'm near water, it's like I'm like, oh, God made me tall enough that I don't need to put my head underwater. But it's like when you hear the, hey, why don't you learn how to swim? It's not a necessarily like a rationalized fear. Like it makes sense. You don't want to drown, but yeah.
Ashley says, my fear tends to disguise itself as apathy. I like that. Ashley, do you want to join in? I would love to understand more about that. She's like, what? I'm not ready. If you want to come in, I can let you in. But interesting. Fear tends to disguise itself as apathy. Interesting. What do you guys think of the concept that emotional maturity is part of spiritual maturity? And you guys can now unmute yourselves because it's just a panel here. So, emotional maturity is part of spiritual maturity.
Wow, that's tough because yeah, I kind of if you understand, I mean, if you're mature enough in a spiritual way, it, I'm wondering, are you actually emotionally mature then?
If you're spiritual mature, if you're emotional mature.
I think if you're spiritually mature, it almost coincide with you being emotionally mature.
Yes.
I,
You could be emotionally mature but spiritually immature. I could think that could happen.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I
True.
agree. Mhm.
And
I
it
was
was,
one of those people that was emotionally mature, but well, no, spiritually mature, but not emotionally mature.
Mm.
And
yeah,
then the other way around as well. It's it's interesting.
no,
At
it
some points in
was,
my life, I was emotionally mature, and then it kind of like changed. It was weird.
that is one of the things that I thought was really interesting when I started noticing, especially as I started working with young people, because I would see this person, wow, she's so mature, and then she acted like a little child, and then I started realizing you can be mature in parts of your life and not in other parts of your life. Like you really got to get your professional life, but you're such a child when it talks about dating and meeting other people and stuff like that, or the opposite. So I started realizing how it's not all the same. We don't arrive at everything the same, and sometimes we have to be intentional, kind of like right now, we have to be, first of all, we have to acknowledge. That's why I thought this topic was important for us to pay attention, to acknowledge, to take the steps to understand, that's why I started like researching, looking which would be 5 steps that would make it easier for us to, because the whole thing is there any of us that are completely mature and everything? No. I'm 50 years old and sometimes I act like a 12-year-old little girl, stubborn and mad at something. We are all in a journey. We are all in a process. But I think the difference, what we're talking about here, is not that none of us are going to be perfect mature. But it's like, okay, let me be aware of when I'm acting this way. Kind of like the example that I gave when my situation that I start noticing that why I'm so happy the whole day and my husband's about to get home and I get angry. The hardest thing that I start noticing is for us to notice that. Because it's kind of like what Lloyd said. When we are angry, we justify our anger.
Mhm.
Oh, my husband walked home and he threw his shirt on the floor. That's why I'm angry. Like we try to justify. Why is it that anything that my husband does gets me so upset? Like what is it that I'm holding? And as I start analyzing, so I think the maturity and the spiritual growth come first with paying attention. I remember another time. So you guys see that I have a lot of emotional issues. So I have a lot of health problems, and for a time I was a very strict vegan, no sugar, no fried anything. So traveling was very stressful to me. And I remember one time I spent 10 days with my sister in Brazil, and she was working. We would go out to eat and stuff like that. And one day I was really upset, and what was I don't remember how she caught on. By the way, my sister is a psychologist, but I got mad or my mood was down. I don't remember what it was. And she looked at me and she was like, "No, that's not the promise because it's time for us to eat. And you're tense because we don't know if we're gonna find the kind of food that you can eat." I was like, "Oh,
Mm.
I was thinking that I was mad about something completely different. I was justifying my anger. And she's like, it's about time for us to eat, and it's hard for you to find the food you can eat."
Mhm.
But isn't it great that God helps us become aware?
I think that's why we need community sometimes, but it's hard to find someone that actually you can trust and share your stuff. These
People that are safe.
exactly. She was your sister, so definitely, and she knows you, so that's good. But sometimes even people that you know and you think that you can trust, sometimes it could be too harsh.
Or
Uh,
they can weaponize.
exactly. But definitely, I think that we will be able to go through a lot if we have a safe community where we can share this type of things, and they will say, "Hey, something similar like you said, it's not even that you're upset about something, is that you are stressed about this." And that's pretty,
It was fear. It was fear of, am I gonna find the food that I can eat?
and I don't gonna even enjoy, and then
Yeah.
things start going on in your mind.
Well,
Yeah.
deep inside, if I'm gonna go deeper, what happens is I had such a struggle with my health that if I ate anything wrong, I would be sick for days. Like with gastro system problems, and I was traveling. I was afraid that if I get sick in a country that I didn't have insurance, or if I go to the hospital, so it's unconscious. All of these things start playing in your head, and I start being rude to my sister, and it had nothing to do with her.
No, no, no. It's very true. I had like a similar situation with one of my sisters, because we all used to share an apartment. I don't want to go too much down the story, but it was something where this she used to work at this one place that was very stressful for her. It was a very stressful environment, stressful working environment, and she would bring that stress at home, you
Mhm.
know? And then she would like not say like take it out on us like cussing or acting bad, but it's more of like the stress basically the stress got home, and it got to a point where me and my younger sister looked at her and we were like, hey, like you need to change your job, like you're not treating us the same way, this job is stressing you out. And by her listening, she was able to find a better job, as well as the stress disappeared, and then she realized, whoa, that did cause it. And it's something where it's like there's a lot of different things where it's like, and I think it goes back to the point where you said about awareness. Like awareness is key, because it will like one little thing can impact so many different areas of your life, and it's very important to be mindful of like what is the root cause, like what is like what you're saying, like what is triggering this? Is there something that I want to communicate that's not being communicated, or do I not feel like my emotions are being validated and whatnot?
Yep. Yep.
A solution that I will bring to the table, probably, I don't know, you can let me know if I'm wrong, but probably we can start praying that prayer to God, like to be aware of what is why
Hmm.
we are feeling as we are feeling. So, and then we can deal with that, because if I know that I'm hungry and that's why I'm angry, so then it's like, okay, well, you need to eat. So then you start eating, and then okay, we solve the problem.
Yes, yes, I think what you said, it's absolutely right. It sounds too simplistic, but it's not. Ask God, God, help me be aware of why I'm feeling this way, and help me be aware when I start getting this way. I remember anger was a really big issue for me for most of my life. I come from a family, oh my Lord, if you guys watch my family talking, let's just say that we're not the most polite people, okay? And everybody's angry and it's always very reactive and everybody's shouting and there is no like nice treatment among each other. It's always like, anyways. So I came to the US. I'm not around my family anymore, but that stays in you. That's how I grew up. And as much as I didn't like it, I treated my kids the same way. I treated my husband the same way. So it took me many, many years and God working in me. And God is so gentle. God is so good because He
Hmm.
didn't give me a list of everything I needed to change at once. because I would probably faint.
I think that is so true because anytime when he's working on anything in any of our lives, it's always one little thing. It's like, let's focus on this thing and before we go to the next thing, you know?
Yes, yes.
Hmm.
And so within time, I started changing that what was common for me to scream and yell in a house. I haven't done this for many years. And it's weird because when I go to visit my family and I hear them screaming and yelling and it's something normal, I'm like, I'm not used to that. I'm not perfect yet. Sometimes that little Chris comes back,
Hmm.
and I start, but it's funny because 2 minutes later, I look at my husband, I was like, I'm sorry. I'm like, I have no idea why I yelled at you. I had no right to do that. But today I can tell you guys that I'm a lot better. Have not arrived yet, but a lot better, you know? Now, one thing that Manu said that I wanted to go back to, how do we create this safe space? Because it's that I think a big thing is we need people to help us process things.
Mhm.
Yes, my sister was there at the moment, and because she's a psychologist, she was able to cut on very quickly. First, it's uh, oh, sorry, Cameron. I just saw your message here saying, this is a webinar, so no, you can only talk when you are part of the panelist. For everybody else, you can just watch and participate through the chat and the Q&A. But I would love your participation. Maybe another time I can invite you as a panelist as well, because I do want to create like a place where we can now talk. It's easier to be a webinar because when we do a meeting, a Zoom meeting, and sometimes we have 20, 30 people and somebody forgets to mute and unmute and start talking. And you know how annoying it is to be in a meeting where everybody keeps interrupting each other. That's why I thought it was better to do as a webinar and bring panelists and try to have different panelists every week. So I love to have you another time, Cameron. Anyways, going back to where was I?
How to create a safe space.
How to create a safe space. So I think the first thing we need to ask ourselves is, how can I be a safe person? What
Mhm.
are your thoughts on that? Leah, you've been quiet. We don't let you talk. Go.
Um, one of the things is, for me anyway, one of my friends became that safe space for me. And the one thing that helped a lot was complete honesty, completely transparent with everything. I mean, it could have been the most random thing, like a conversation they had with a friend of theirs or something. Just complete honesty both ways, not just with one person. And then um, being there in the moments where you wouldn't really think that somebody needed to be there. Like one time, I told her, I was like, "Oh, I'm going to the store," and she goes, "Do you want me to come with you?" And I was like, "That's kind of strange." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, come with me." We ended up talking for like 3 hours after that, because it's just when when you create that safe space, it's not awkward or uncomfortable. So you can go to the store with somebody. Um, I lost my train of thought for a second.
Creating the safe space, your
Yeah.
friend.
Um, nope, it's gone.
It's gonna come back. When it
I
come
th
back, just interrupt me.
To
Okay.
add to what Leah was saying, which was like amazing, I think another piece to add is just creating a no judgment free zone. Because it's like the whole honest communication, being transparent is very key and very crucial. But the whole concept where it's like, hey, I could tell you the worst possible scenario, and to just know that the person's not going to look at down upon you and be like, oh, you really did that. That's not going to create an atmosphere where it's like, hey, you're willing to share. When you create that atmosphere where it's like, hey, you could tell me whatever, and I still like my love for you or me being your friend is not conditional on your behavior. Well, I say that with like with parameters, because if they're treating you toxic, that's a totally different situation. But for the most part, it's like, hey, you could do something crazy and we could talk about it, you know? So yeah.
I have a comment here in the Q&A. I love my family. Okay, let's start over. I love my church family, but as a leader, I feel unable to share my struggles with anyone out of fear it will be weaponized against me. It often leaves me feeling hopeless and alone. This is real. This is absolutely real. When we're talking about creating safe space, the number one place that we think it should be a safe space is church. And unfortunately, and I'm going to be 100% transparent here, it's the least safe space. Because the moment that we say things that disagree, and Cameron is saying it's called manipulation, brutal. Yes, it is brutal. The problem is, what if instead of being the place that, okay, I'm struggling with this, and I can come and let them know, the moment that they know you're struggling with a sin or whatever that it is, instead of helping you, they weaponize you. They weaponize. No, they weaponize against you. My English. Anyways, the point is, that's why I wanted to create this online church.
Mhm.
How can we create a safe space where you're going to be able to be real? Now, I'm going to warn you. As much as we want to be real and to be open with people, first we need to know the person is safe. Otherwise, you're going to be hurt and you're going to close yourself and shut yourself even more.
Mm.
So don't go sharing with everybody. However, don't give up on finding that safe person.
Mhm.
Do you understand what I mean?
Mhm.
At the same time that don't go sharing everything with everybody, because unfortunately humans, and the church is made by humans, we make mistakes, and we have a lot to learn.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people out there that truly want to help you. And then it's that what Leah said, it's you open up and the person opening it up as well. And the sharing too, it has to be something more than just I wanted to just talk and I want to get out of my chest because I enjoy the wrong things that I'm doing. It has to be something more like I am struggling with this. I want to change, but I'm having a hard time. Do you understand? Do you see the difference
Mhm.
between just some people just like to talk, and even to brag?
I think I think one of the beautiful things about finding that one person that you could open up and share with is that you'd be able to, one, depending on what it is, because there's different scenarios, like you'll be able to get accountability where someone, like where you could say, like they could say to you like, hey, anytime you feel like you're going to do this, reach out to me, call me, or like, you'll be able to have a support system. So that's always a huge benefit, as well as it's something where another scenario is also, it's like you realize you're not alone. Because like I know with some of the things that I've gone through with my life, and like I remember when I told some of my close family members and friends, and one of the things that they all told me was like, if I would have known that you were going through this, I would have been there to help you, or it's like you wouldn't have to go through this alone or feel that way. And it's something where I'm not saying to share your business with everyone, because this is it. There are good people, and then there are people that will take advantage. It's something where be prayerful about it. Look at the fruits in the other person's life. It's like, hey, like are these are like because it's like, hey, are they a gossiper? If I see them gossiping about someone else's business, I'm not going to try to tell them my own business. But if it's something where if you see their fruit and say, hey, this person, like not only they seem like they have great fruits, like they're like the fruit of the spirit, like love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, and self-control, but you also see that you have a good relationship where you're easy to open up with them, then you can say, hey, there's something I want to talk to you about, and then you just share it, and then like through prayer and with God's help, like I feel like some of the biggest ways how God heals us is through people.
Mhm.
Yes, absolutely. I want to switch a little bit because I think we passed through something that as I was preparing this sermon, I thought it was something so important for us to understand. Is that part that I said, let's stop and think about this. Grief is real even when we have hope. And I think we as Christians look at grief, lament, depression, anxiety as like a fate. Oh, if you really believe that Christ is your savior and he's going to come back one day, you wouldn't be grieving. Like you wouldn't be sad, you wouldn't be depressed. So I think this is something that is important for us to talk about a little bit. That grief is real even when we have hope, even when we have certainty of salvation.
Yeah, well, definitely we need to understand that the world that we live is a sinful world. So it's gonna be hard to be happy every single time. So that's why we are craving Jesus to come back. Um, but we have that hope, definitely, that he's gonna come back and that we're gonna be happy one day, fully happy, and it's not gonna be more sorrow, more crying, more anything. But definitely, right now we still live in a sinful world. I'm still a sinner. My family is still sinners. So we are around sinful people. So definitely it's gonna be grief, sorrow, and sadness around us. So how to deal with that? Again, going back to the community, going back to prayer, to have a closer relationship with God. And I just want to come back a little bit about what we were saying, how to be a better, how to be that safe person for someone else. I think that definitely we need to be a good listener,
Mhm.
and we need to be prudent too. So if we have those two things, I think that's gonna be very helpful. And sometimes I'm gonna be very honest. Sometimes it's hard to be like this when to someone that you actually love, because you
Mhm.
have a lot of trust in this person that you can be yourself in that point that you don't listen. You want to already jump up and start saying things when it's like, no, you just have to listen to the person.
That is called closeness bias.
Exactly.
We are so close to the people that we think we know it all, we think we have all of the solutions, and instead of listening, we're trying to fix it.
That's another thing. We need to stop being fixers, and we just need to listen. And I'm saying for myself, definitely. I need to start doing that with my family, with my friends, with the people that I love. I need to start listening more, and love them more, and then pray for them too. And if you can help them, okay, you can help them. And that's another way that we're gonna be able to represent Jesus in this sinful world.
To add something to like what you were saying about being listeners, I know something that worked very great in some of my own relationships is
Mhm.
something that I kind of heard on social media where they're saying whenever you listen to somebody, ask them these things.
Uh-huh.
Do you want me to listen?
Mm.
Do you want advice or do you want a distraction or do you want like time? Because sometimes like requesting time is like, hey, you need more time to process alone. I will call you later and check up on you later. If you just want me to be a listening ear, that means, hey, you're only listening. Like, if you got to mute your phone, not to say anything, do that. And then if they want advice, because there's certain times where you just want to just say something. You don't necessarily want a solution or advice and just being there sometimes they're able to process it through talking with you. But going back to the part where you kind of said like to have hope even like through mourning, it's something where I think that's a very hard thing in this world, because it's like I'll use the biggest mourning scenario, which is death. It's something where no one likes death,
Yeah.
and the concept of death, it reminds me of how far it's strayed away from God's original design. Because
Mhm.
if you think about it, when a new child is born, it brings such life and such joy, and it's like it brings people together. And don't get me wrong, death does the same thing. Like it brings people together, but it's more tragic and it's more heart wrenching because it's like you're losing a piece. Like there's no more calling that person again. There's no more saying I saw. Like I remember with one of my aunts who passed away many years ago. I remember the last thing I said to her, which was I love you. And I remember the last thing she said to me, which was remember, Auntie always love you.
Mm.
And it's something where like I'm happy we had that relationship where she was able to say that and I was able to say that, where had that in my head. But some people, their last memory of a person is arguing. Their last memory is not on like the best of terms. And when it comes to like the whole morning, it's like knowing knowing that Jesus is coming back again, it gives us a hope, but it doesn't take away the pain from the
Exactly.
current situation. And I think that goes back to what you said in the sermon, where it's like Mary and Martha was like, Jesus, you are late. Our brother is dead in the tomb. And Jesus knew he was going to heal call the brother up from the dead, but he was like, no, I'm gonna mourn with you. I'm gonna be in this a moment. I'm gonna validate your feelings because what they're feeling. Because think about it, to just say, "Oh no, you're perfectly fine. He's gonna come back in the next resurrection." That's not validating how they feel in that emotions. Because I feel like in the Christian community, we always jump so quickly and be like, oh, don't cry. You'll see them again in heaven. No. That's why the Bible says, rejoice with those who rejoice, mourn with those who mourn. To say, like, be in that moment with them so that once it's time, it's like, because like I remember I had this one friend. I'm sorry that I'm rambling. I had this one friend where he we had different views on like the app like heaven, some people believe you go to heaven straight away and other people says you kind of sleep until Jesus returns. So it's something where he said something that's a little bit different than my own belief, but rather than saying, hey, like this is what I believe, this is that, it's like, no, you're grieving. I'm gonna be your friend, I'm gonna support you. And then later on, that's a discussion for another day. And I feel like that's something where we gotta remember to be like humanize with people, emotionalize with people, and then because that helps with connection.
When I understood that part, Jesus cried, knowing that he was going to resurrect Lazarus. For me, I mean, we already see the picture of the humanity of Jesus in the fact that he cried, but in the fact that he cried knowing that he was going to resurrect. It for me, it was like, wow, how
Or even the
much.
Garden of Gethsemane.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes. And the descriptions that the Bible gave of Jesus in the Gethsemane is of somebody deeply depressed.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, God, Jesus depressed? That is a, well, that is a human reality. And he went through all of that. It's absolutely amazing. I want to ask you guys one last question. And this is for the people that are watching and for people in the panel. What is one next step you want to take about your emotions next week?
That's a good question.
I'll say I'll surrender them all to God, to give it to them. So that is that I'm a sinner, that I'm sometimes react as I wouldn't like to do it. But definitely he's the one who can transform me, to change me, to help me to process the feelings, to help me to understand myself and accept myself as I am. Uh, it's okay if I'm angry. It's okay if I'm afraid. It's normal. I'm a human being. He went through that as well. So just give it to him, and in order to process it well and not hurt anyone with my emotions as well.
Yes. Cameron says that keep praying, keep talking, ask for clarity and wisdom and peace regarding said emotions. Yes, yes. Who else?
One of the things I definitely want to do is like naming what I feel, like categorizing it more in depth than just saying, "Oh, I'm angry,"
Yeah.
or "I'm tired," because I say that a lot. Um, and then kind of thinking, what made me feel this way?
So
Like
the
what
first two
happened?
steps,
Yeah, what
name and
happened
why.
today that made me feel like this? And then praying about it, which is a little awkward, but eventually it'll become natural. Um,
Yes, yes. And you'll be surprised that once we start surrendering to God more and more and more, it becomes more natural. A lot of times we think that God can't handle our emotions. The thing is, He already knows. We're the ones thinking that we can trick God.
I would say for me, definitely asking God to help me process my emotions, because it's something where it's one thing to look at it and understand it on a surface level, but it's deeper to say, why do I feel this way? Why, like, why does this trigger me? Why does this, like, and it's something where when you get to that root cause, that's where you could find like, hey, that thing that saw growing up, or like you'll start seeing childhood trauma, different things from different areas of your life, and it's something where it's like this. How I see it's like this: when you heal your old trauma, that's how you become a healthier adult,
Yes.
and it's something where. Like how I see is God wants us to be healed because it's like this: if you are healed, it's easier to do help healing for other people. You know, like if you operate from a place of brokenness, I'm not saying God can't use your brokenness, but I'm saying if you operate from a place from brokenness, when someone comes to you for advice, you may speak out of that brokenness rather than from a healed place.
Yes. And I
Mhm.
think my next step will be to just continue surrendering to God. We have one more thing here on the Q&A. Yes. I would say come to Jesus about it. Let him take control because my emotional maturity is not great because of how I grew up. I wanted to deal with it myself, but that's not working. But it's such a bad habit. I need to at least open up to God. Yes, yes. And I encourage you to do it. But you know what? Just this conversation here, I think is already first step, because
Mhm.
honestly, I don't think a lot of people are talking about these things. So I think just the fact that we're opening it up, we're talking, we are facing our issues, we are growing. Now, all of us, all of the people that participated here, the ones in the panel, the ones attending, now we are aware, right? And that is already a step forward. I'm very proud of all of you, all of us, and we are accountability partners.
Mhm.
I really enjoyed this conversation. I hope it was as uh, a spiritual growth for you as it is for me. Trust me, while I'm preparing the sermons, uh, where's the book? I don't know where my book went, but there is a book that I'm using for almost every sermon because it has been so amazing. I read a bunch of books and I try to put together, try to figure out, well, what is it that is important for young adults. And as I'm researching, as I'm putting the sermon together, I grow. I learn. And then when we come here and we start talking and you guys share your experiences, I grow and I believe you all grow as well. So I am really excited that we're doing this, and I hope that our little online church will grow. And it's not only for us now live, but even for the people that will be watching later, because there are people watching later as well. So for now, I want to thank you guys. Before we go, I want to pray and invite you for next week. We will be actually, the topic for next week seems so simple, but blew my mind when I understood better what it means. And it's talking about joy and transformation of character and discipleship. So I think you guys will really enjoy. So that's the topic for next week. I hope to see you. And let me pray. Father, I thank you for this moment that you allow us to come together. I thank you because you were the one who brought this topic to mind, and how important it is for our young people to understand emotions and to just give it to you because you can handle it. What we don't know what to do with, you do know what to do. So, Father, I thank you, and I want to ask you for a special blessing for each person that listened to this message today, because as we talked about, things might have stirred up in their hearts that will be throughout the week something that they will be thinking about it. And I ask for your Holy Spirit to be with them, to guide them, to give them the assurance that you are with them in dealing with this, because this may take years for them to overcome certain emotions or certain traumas. Father, we want to be your tools to help others to get to know you and to grow spiritually and emotionally. Be with each of us. I thank in the name of your son, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you all. See you. Talk to you I have some messages here. Amazing conversation, great discussions. God bless you all. Bless you too. Love you guys.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. I see you next week. Bye bye.